Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for frame rate is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Frame Rate is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account for 6 months, go to Squarespace.com and use the offer code FRAMERATE7.
Show yourself. Be careful. Even in defeat, Saruman is dangerous. I've heard enough. Shoot him. Stick an arrow in his gut.
And go time!
Get ready to board the ship called Frame Rate.
We sit in judgment of the frames.
Fetch me a frame! Why is it when you say sit in judgment of frames, I picture Queen Elizabeth the First
Well, yeah, we've
with
got
her
we
ball
sit
and scepter.
on an iron throne, but like neither of us want to sit in the middle. So instead, like you sit on one armrest and I sit on the other, and then they bring in a frame and we sit in judgment of it. And we're like, meh, 6.2.
This throne's uncomfortable. I'm giving you a 2.
It's like it's not my fault.
So, Trollolo Saruman is freaking awesome. Where did that come from?
Yeah, that one popped up on BuzzFeed a while ago. I think it dropped earlier last week. But as is often the case with these, the beauty is in grabbing just the right frames to totally change the context and the story. But most importantly, you live for those moments when the lip sync is absolutely perfect, and you just wonder how on earth could that have happened.
I have to say, it was one of the better ones at not having more than a couple of microseconds that took me out of it. Everything really worked. Like it flowed together very well.
I like the fact that they were able to take different other scenes out of context and actually tell a whole narrative, because you also don't get that very often as well. It's a total package, and under a minute long. Just look for Trolling Saruman.
By the way, most people not familiar with the show probably tuned out by now because we've been ignoring you, but welcome to episode 33 of Frame Rate. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood.
And let's tell you about a big story.
This just in, the big story.
This is kind of a this just in big story kind of deal. Business Insider, which I have to say, no disrespect to Business Insider, but they do tend to get out ahead of stories sometimes. So I'm always a little bit careful with their rumor reports. But they're passing along something that Bloomberg published, saying that Hulu's owners are only willing to offer Hulu's new owner 5 years of access, but 2 years of exclusivity. And then Business Insider says they have a source that tells them Yahoo is willing to buy Hulu. Yahulu could happen. And they'd pay $2 billion to do it, but they want 4 years of exclusive. I'm sorry, 4 or 5 years of exclusive access to current TV shows and older movies.
Is this the corporate equivalent of the two of them passing notes between each other? Apparently, like, Hulu is just like, do you like me? Check yes, no. And Yahoo is like, I like you, but could you put on some more makeup, please?
And
then
Bloomberg and Business have said, give me that note.
Right, right, exactly, yeah, exactly.
I'm going to read it in front of the whole class.
Yeah, I'm going to read it in front of the whole internet, sirs. Yeah, let me tell you, I guess I didn't realize that already exclusivity was part of the deal. So it's not that far of a stretch to just double the length of exclusivity. I mean, it is a lot. That's a big concession. But I'll tell you, I don't see why Hulu needs to do something now. They need to diversify and figure out who they are, because they've had an identity crisis for 3 years straight. And I don't know. I mean, this seems like a good opportunity for them to move into some spaces that they've been flirting with for a while.
I believe Hulu CEO Jason Kilar knows what needs to be done with the company and hasn't been allowed to do it. And I think he's even thrown some fits to that effect. We've talked about those stories previously on Frame Rate. So I think they need an owner that is willing to hand the reins over to Kilar and say, go do it, make some money. Do you think Yahoo are the right folks to do that? My impression of Yahoo is their corporate culture is, yeah, do whatever you want, but then we want to put a banner ad here and stick a thing here, and we need to do it the Yahoo way. And I don't see that Hulu and Yahoo are the right match for success for Hulu.
I agree. Well, in fact, to be honest, the list of companies that I think Yahoo is a right match for, not very large. Yahoo has not been managing things extraordinarily well, and I'm starting to wonder how they're what's their core competency, or even if they know what their core competency is. I just feel like whatever their cash lead and their business lead, and of course I'm no expert in any of this. I'm on the outside from the cheap seats watching this whole thing happen. But if you asked me, if you have to say what is Hulu good at, I can rattle off a list of stuff. If you ask me what's Hulu good at, all these companies that are big players on the internet, I can say what they do and what they do well. But from a branding perspective, when I say Yahoo, what do you think of? You just think of the jingle at the end of their commercials. I have no idea what I'm supposed to think of when I think of
revenue down 5% or whatever it was on their earnings call today. I mean,
and I think of lots of CEOs, this revolving door of CEOs that they keep having.
So who should buy Hulu? Google has been bandied about. I just have a gut feeling that's not going to happen. I don't think the studios would be awfully wild about selling to Google. They're still kind of burned about YouTube, even though they've gotten over it for the most part. And I just don't see Google wanting to do that. They're more interested in building up YouTube as a Hulu rather than buying Hulu. I guess they could just merge it into that. But
I mean, is this a case where Hulu itself is not on good financial ground, and in order to grow and grab the market share and change the game, they need an influx of cash?
No, I don't think they need cash so much as independence, frankly. I think they need somebody who can just let Kilar do what he does. Obviously, cash is part of it, but I don't think they need piles and piles of cash.
But when you say they need independence from whom? I mean,
from the studios that own them now, and you've got this committee. It's the worst possible scenario. So anytime Hulu wants to do something, it's like, well, let's ask Disney, NBC, and what's
the other one?
Fox. Let's ask Disney, NBC, and Fox what they think. Well, now NBC can't speak anymore because Comcast bought them. But you've got to get these studios who they haven't quite cracked what they want to do. They're afraid of doing almost anything, and so it just you end up with that weird cross strategy, like you're saying, where Hulu doesn't seem to know what it's supposed to be. And I think under a new owner, they'd be able to find that. Maybe AOL. As much as I don't like the AOL way of journalism, they get video. And
yes.
they had one of the earliest, best places to watch video on the internet of old episodes of things at AOL Video. Maybe they would be able to provide, but talk about not being able to provide cash. I mean, AOL's not rolling in it.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's when you compare Hulu and Netflix, between those two players, it's obvious to me that Hulu is the one that is having a hard time figuring out what it is, because is it just day-old movies or day-old TV shows, or 2 or 3 weeks old TV shows, or with the Hulu Plus, is it also movies? Is it what is Hulu? And it's whereas Netflix, again, it's one thing and everyone knows exactly what they're getting, the back catalog of instant streaming films. But when you compare Hulu and Yahoo, and you ask who has more focus, compared to Yahoo, Hulu's a freaking laser beam compared to Yahoo. I mean, I don't, and again, it doesn't matter as long as they get the things that they want, like the independence to go the direction. Maybe they could turn into a laser if they had that influx of cash. But from everything I'm seeing from Yahoo, they don't seem like a good force of guidance for Hulu if they were to buy them.
No. Netflix, to me, is an analog for DVDs. That's why it works.
Yeah.
You stream on your television the kinds of things you would get on DVD, and so it makes sense. Hulu is an analog for television. You get the kinds of things on Hulu that you would get on television, not just TV shows, but movies. You watch movies on television as well. And so I think that's where their bread and butter can be cooked. I don't forget the metaphor. I think that's what they should do.
That's where the bread and butter can be sautéed.
That's where they should butter the bread with
sprinkled on it.
Put a little pepper,
and
then you toast that. Ooh, that's good stuff.
Then you break up the toast and you feed it to a hobo.
Exactly. And that, my friends, is what will solve all of Hulu's problems.
Hobo cinnamon toast. That's all it's going to take, people.
It's all about, Yahoo spread the peanut butter too thin. Hulu's Hobo cinnamon toast. It makes sense now.
It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. What do you think the timeline is on this? Do you think we're still going to see an unsold Hulu a year from now, or do you think we're going to see something shake out pretty quick?
I think we'll see something shake out by the end of the year. Let's put it this way. I'm 68% sure we'll see something by the end of this year.
Thank goodness that just a rough number that you're putting together. I do see where you're coming from as far as Hulu needs to get out from underneath the pressure of the studios. But of course, that's going to continually be a problem. At least, I guess, once they're outside and they're owned by someone else, then they could play the same game Netflix is playing, where it's like, now how much of your content can we get and at what price? And
they need to have these deals locked up for 5 years, because it's going to take 5 years for the studios to get over the fact that they don't own Hulu anymore. So you want to make sure that you've got the programming coming in. Hulu independent, side note, might actually be able to do a deal with CBS. CBS has resisted because they're like, well, we don't want to be a part owner in anything. We want to control our content the way we control. We want to do what we want with our content. But CBS has no problem putting their videos everywhere else. They're on Netflix. They were on freaking Juiced. They're all over the place. So if there was an independent Hulu who could be more accommodating to CBS's needs, I think you'd see them on Hulu as well.
Yes, I agree. I don't know that I have anything else really to contribute on this. It's obviously rampant speculation from sources familiar with the matter. But
that's what I have on my family crest, on the shield, on the coat of arms. I have speculation rampant.
Thank goodness. But yeah, no, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to move on to a little bit of the film.
Let's film it up in this place.
Boy, that was a weird
Rodriguez presents The Dwarves.
That was like a remix where all of a sudden a ghost of Tom Merritt showed up in the middle.
Yeah, spooky, itching his head. What am I going to talk about next?
Very confused. The ghost of Tom Merritt in a movie theater, the Phantom of the former Opera House.
So the full cast of dwarves from The Hobbit has been unveiled in costume in a series of stills. I saw it over on the Wort Zone. Adam posted up there. Richard Armitage playing Thorin Oakenshield. To me, looks a lot like a Klingon.
Yes, disturbingly like a Klingon.
Did you put some ridges up there above the nose? There. Yeah, you got yourself a Klingon.
To be honest,
now he's going to be shorter in situ, so he'll look more like a dwarf, I think.
At the bottom of the article, the first of the 6 comments says that having all 13 dwarves appear as individuals with distinct characteristics is probably one of the biggest problems facing Peter Jackson, and I would agree. I didn't even think about that, but when you think of dwarfs, you tend to have one stereotypical vision that was pretty much what John Rhys Davies looked like in the Lord of the Rings film.
So we skipped past Owen and Glowin. Can you go back? Yeah, there. Owen and Glowin. Glowin is Gimli's dad there on the right. Does that not look like it could be John Rhys Davies' dad as a dwarf?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. But you notice I do like the fact that they pay attention to the details to make each one very distinct from another, whether it's the hair color or, the facial hair, that kind of thing.
And then Dino Gorman and Aidan Turner playing Feely and Keely, or Feely and Keely, I guess. Aidan Turner from Being Human. He was the vampire.
From a vampire to a dwarf.
Yeah.
We'll never get to play a human.
He actually left the show to become a dwarf.
He's just like, I am so done being a vampire.
I'm so done being a brooding, sexy vampire. I want to be a dwarf. I want to be
Carefree.
Kiwi.
Oh, the jolly carefree life of the dwarf.
Yeah. Dory, Ori, and Nori. Basically, all the dwarves are pictured now. And frankly, they look good. The only one, Thorin Oakenshield, looks a little Klingon for my taste in this picture, but I have a feeling he'll look better.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it just kills me how bad I am with a lot of actors' names because I'm looking at all these names and I'm glad you're there to translate and say, oh, this is the guy from such and such. And because otherwise I'd be like names, words. They all look like dwarfs. Although I like that trio, the one, if you go back up, I like the guy on the left here. Which guy is
totally.
that? Dory.
Yeah, is that Dory? Looking good.
Is that his braided hair he's wearing
Looking
around
well
his neck?
fed. No, I think it's the hair of his
It's a lay.
enemies. Yeah. It's a dwarf lay.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it. It
Dwarf
looks that.
Hawaii. That's what they give you.
That looks like that could be his own hair that he's got braided.
Actually, I
up.
think you're right. I think it probably
They
is.
look heavily photoshopped in here. I mean, it almost looks
Well,
like
I'm sure they touched him up. Yeah.
Yeah, but that looks like somebody did a crude cut and paste job.
Maybe he wasn't there
Out
for the
of
shoot.
context.
They're like, well, we'll fix that in post. Did you get a chance to watch the trailer for Juan of the Dead?
Oh my God, did I? And I am so glad I did. Now, in fact, let's just watch it right now because I have a bunch of questions from what you said about it.
Cuban zombie movie. Check it out.
First ever zombie horror film.
Sobreviví a Mariel, sobreviví al
Apologies to
periodo
everyone who
especial y a la
doesn't
cosa esta que vino después. Este es el paraíso y nada lo va a cambiar.
Nota oficial. En estos días han sucedido algunas alteraciones de la disciplina social causados por grupúsculos de disidentes pagados por el gobierno de los Estados Unidos.
Este no es un disidente.
Vampiros.
Eso no son americanos, viejo.
They are zombies. They are the living dead.
Juan de los muertos, matamos a sus seres queridos. ¿En qué puedo servirle? Los disidentes son lentos. Por lo menos eso está a nuestro favor.
Y al parecer aguantan mucho el dolor. Me parece que están drogados.
Qué bonito
De los
paisaje, ¿no?
muertos.
Sí, es una lástima que ese edificio nos tape la puesta de sol.
And they just put on.
Okay, I have so many questions about this. First of all, best line of that whole thing is when he picks up the payphone. It says, "One of the dead, we kill your beloved ones. How can I help you?" That was that. First of all, that trailer is hip and it looks really, really good. But what confused me is that the headline on this on Boing Boing said Cuba's first ever zombie horror film. Which, number one, I mean, like, is that a no-no? Is it bad to have zombie movies in Cuba? What's the story there?
Well, I wouldn't jump to that conclusion. I would just assume they never got around to that before. Maybe things are loosening up and they weren't allowed to before, but I just have a feeling that the movie industry, they probably only got a few movie titles that they have the wherewithal to produce every year, and so it took them a while to get around to making a zombie flick.
Well, I don't know. There were some other parts in there, like it said in there, it was made with latex that was smuggled into the country. I think I read somewhere.
Jenny says that in her posting on Boing Boing.
Yeah. Which I don't know.
Well, they may have been smuggled in because of an embargo. In other words, we don't trade. The United States doesn't trade with Cuba. So the smuggling may not have been Cuba saying you can't get latex. It may have been them saying the best latex we need is made in the United States. We got to smuggle it in because it's illegal for the United States to sell it to us.
Yeah. By the way, Patrick De La Hanty in the chat room with a slight tip of the hat to the NSFW says, "Why is it okay to do a zombie movie everywhere but Cuba?"
But Cuba is now having their own zombie movie, so it's okay everywhere.
And it looks really good. And here's what I like about it is that there's it looks fun and funny in ways that I wouldn't have expected as well. Like this really looks like it would be at home in the American independent film market.
Absolutely.
kudos to you guys. I will definitely see this as soon as I'm able.
Yeah, as soon as it's legal for us to see it.
As soon as the embargo on awesome zombie movies from Cuba is lifted here in America.
I guess the United States probably doesn't respect Cuban copyright laws, so maybe just pirate it. It would be legal. It'd be okay.
Obama,
I don't know how that works.
Do us a favor and just grab it. Just a bit more of that.
The White House is actually hosting the torrent, so here you go.
House.gov/Juan of the Dead.
It's on again, it's off again, it's on again, it's off again, and the Dark Tower series is now off again as Universal Pictures has decided to pull out, meaning they have a director, they have a script, they have a star in Javier Bardem, but they don't have a studio.
Well, and they indicated, we heard rumblings of this quite a while ago, specifically was that Universal was risk averse. They didn't want to take a big gamble on an unproven property, and that's part of the problem. This is a problem with sequel mania in general. Is you got to remember, these guys are business people, and what they want to do is they want cash cows with predictable returns. That's why we keep getting Transformers movies. By the way, did you like the last Transformers movie at all?
I honestly have not seen all of any of the Transformers movies.
Really?
I've seen parts of 1, snippets of 2, and none of 3.
Okay, well, I mean, I'll tell you this, even this third one, and I know I'll get some slack from people who love cars blowing up, but it was, again, brief islands of cool in a massive sea of suck, and it's because they want to do what's safe, reliable, and predictable, and that's why we get these mega franchises that just, like, to these studios, there's nothing better than a Star Wars prequels trilogy, where it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. They know they're just going to throw a bunch of visual crap on the screen, and they know they're going to make crazy bank after it. And when you have a story like The Dark Tower, something which has some very dark things happen in it, a very unusual story. It's it is one of the coolest, most precious fantasy experiences I've ever had in my life, and it's a real shame that it's not going to see the light of day. But there was a lot of things about this project that I was not a fan of. I was not a fan of Ron Howard directing it. I was not a fan of half of it being on television, half of it being on the movies, because especially prime time, I think it was CBS or ABC that it was going to be on, and a computer generated main character, all these things really made me worried that it was going to take something that was so precious to me and really crap it up. But so weirdly, I'm kind of a sigh of relief over this. And now I can go back to my fantasy of it ending up as an HBO series in the vein of Game of Thrones. Because again, the things that are awesome right now are where we're taking risks, with HBO doing Game of Thrones and American Gods and all these original concepts that are like nothing you've seen before.
Think of it this way. HBO has a series right now with a big-name star and a big-name director in Boardwalk Empire. Boardwalk Empire. I was like, Boardwalk Unlimited. I don't know why I couldn't think of the name.
Boardwalk
Incorporated.
Yeah, Boardwalk Empire. So you got Scorsese and you got Buscemi.
Yep.
So the table is set for HBO, for Time Warner, HBO, to walk into Ron Howard's office and say, "Listen, Ron, now we can't give you Universal money, but you don't have a project here, and you've worked so hard, and you got Javier signed up, and you got a great script from Akiva. Why don't you let us do it? Now I know it's not going to be the number you thought, but we got Scorsese working here, we got Buscemi working here. Why don't you do it?" Now I know you probably don't like this because you still don't want Ron Howard to direct, but this is the perfect time for them to waltz in and steal this thing and make it happen.
I can see that, and you know what? If they scaled it back and they
should send Buscemi in.
One of the things that you know what? If Buscemi, 20 years younger, Buscemi could have pulled an Eddie Dean. I could see that. A pretty good Eddie Dean, actually.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I can see them, if they scale back on budget, one of the things you have to do is focus on character development and story. And that is, I think, where The Dark Tower truly shines. The characters, the core, 4 or 5 of them, they are so alive in my mind. And, that's all a testimony to Stephen King. I almost wouldn't mind seeing the budget snip back a little bit. And to be honest, I've said this forever. if you want to convey this larger than life aesthetic, that this good, the bad, and the ugly meets Lord of the Rings kind of, heroes with shadows that go for miles, make it animated, man. Make it animated and just knock it out of the park with the visuals. That's what I would like to see personally.
Yeah, maybe. I want to see it real though, man. I want to see freaking Clint Eastwood, pulling a gun, and obviously a younger Clint Eastwood should play the part of the gunslinger.
I'm telling you, man, but if it's animated, here's the thing. There are characters, there are practical concerns. Look, there's a reason we hardly see the dire wolves in Game of Thrones at all. And that's because there's practical concerns and budgetary concerns about not making, the big question is whether or not when they grow up, are they going to be CG or how are they going to represent them? There's enough fantastical elements of Dark Tower. I don't want to see anything CG. And if it's animated, then you can represent the creature. I'm talking about, spoiler alert, mild here, but the Bumbler.
Just make the Billy Bumbler CG. Why not?
Because it'll look.
No, make him good. You can do. There have been some good CG
Gopher
characters
in the beginning of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like the moment I saw that CG Gopher.
That's a bad example though. There's been some decent CG out there.
No, but this is
CG.
I mean,
Yoda,
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on this one. But personally, I would much rather see the entire story told in animated, where you can convey these larger than life ideas and never be taken out of it with budgetary constraints. That's what I'd like to see.
Let's move on to the John Carter trailer. I saw this before Harry Potter Deathly Hallows, actually. John Carter's the lead character in Edgar Rice Burroughs' 11-volume Barsoom series. And in the film, John Carter is going to be played by Taylor Kitsch, will be transported to Mars, where he becomes part of a conflict between the inhabitants of the planet, including Tars Tarkas, played by Willem Dafoe, and Princess Deja Thoris, played by Lynn Collins.
Now, did you...
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask beforehand. Did you read any of these books? Did you read?
I have not read it. I have not read any of these books. No.
I did the audiobook for Gods of Mars, and it was a fun experience in the audiobook, partly because the guy who read it had this awesome Southern drawl, and it was such an unusual story. I didn't realize how old it was. I didn't realize I was listening to a story written 80 years ago when I picked it up. But I love these ideas of a time of a bygone age when you didn't know how uninhabitable Mars or Venus was. One of my favorite science fiction stories is Ray Bradbury, where they're walking around on Venus and they're going crazy because it's just raining nonstop on them. It's just this constant raining jungle world. And I love to see a modern imagining of a Mars that's habitable, that has native people in it, and you have a character like John Carter in it.
This is the Of Mars series, if you don't know it by the name Barsoom series. If you've seen, blah, blah, Of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs, this is it.
Mr. Burroughs, I'm afraid I bring sad tidings.
Your uncle's passing came as a shock to all of us.
Where am I? My body is a cage that keeps me from dancing with the one I love.
Our world is dying. Fate has brought you here, John Carter. You may be the only one who can save us.
Saw you, I believed it was a sign that something new can come into this world.
John Carter is J.C., Junior Chamber of Commerce.
Well, you notice it says JC and then M at the end. So the big hubbub I saw in the geek community was that they don't call it John Carter of Mars, which I love that title, but instead they're just calling it John Carter, which on the surface strikes me as a very forgettable way to represent it. I don't know. The visuals on this, a lot of people in the chat room when I was watching, they were disappointed that it's clearly the American Southwest. But I love the imagery of Mars as a Western. And in fact, I couldn't help but think of the Muse video, Knights of Sidonia. Did you ever see that?
No.
Oh my God! In fact, actually, I pulled it up here just so you can see it here. Just the visuals right here. They did for Knights of Sidonia. They did all these visuals of it as if it was again Mars in the American Southwest. So you had sort of this mashup. They did it like a bad '80s sci-fi flick. So you had it was all of these over-the-top imagery, but some part of me loved it in the same way that it reminisced the I don't know, the Western aesthetic of Firefly. And if it could be that John Carter offers an opportunity to get that I don't know, that space Western aesthetic. And of course it's being done by Disney. So, obviously it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. It looks like they brought in a lot of fantasy art style with it as well. Even the spaceships look a lot like something you would expect to see out of a fantasy movie.
And a lot of people don't realize that the American Southwest comes from Mars. It broke off from Mars and landed here. So it's actually consistent with history.
Sure, we're all made of the same space junk.
Yeah.
There's some red dirt here. It's a red planet over there.
Where do you think Australia came from? Come on. Read your history, people. No, I'm looking forward to this. It looks good, and someone in the chat room pointed out that they're keeping it as a period piece. They're not updating it, so it happens at the time the Burroughs wrote it, which is great. Real quickly, don't spend too much time on this, but just a note that the iOS app for Star Wars launching at Comic-Con later this week will have some of the Star Wars Blu-ray extras there. So if you're really excited about the Blu-ray set or just the extras that are coming, you want to get a sneak peek at them, check that out.
Now, is it a little bit ironic that like the one thing that's actually new on the Blu-ray player, or on the Blu-ray discs for this, they're giving away for free? I mean, why am I buying these again?
Well, this isn't all the extras. Just a sneak peek at some of them. It's a teaser.
You know that eventually you'll be able to see all of them without spending a dime, right?
Not in Blu-ray.
No, that's true. Not in Blu-ray.
Not on your Blu-ray machine.
Well spoken, sir. Not without slow access times as you wait for the disc to sit up and find the right.
Not with the HDCP breaking and saying can't be displayed on this monitor.
Yeah, not without awesome FBI warnings that remind you that if you display this for too many people or charge ticket prices, you're violating federal law.
Stop,
How much
play.
Is that?
By the way, stop, play. I don't know if it works on Blu-ray though, but it worked on DVD. If you press stop, play, it skips you past all the warnings.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Let's check in on the NSFW show Summer Movie Draft 2011.
Well, I think it's pretty...
Congratulations, Sarah Lane, huh?
I think it's pretty clear that Tom Merritt is going to be our big winner on the Summer Movie Draft.
Yeah, that's right. Bringing up the rear with $175 million.
I cannot believe how... I mean, first of all, we all knew that Harry Potter was going to make $1 billion.
Yeah,
and if anybody who listened to me pleading my case during the draft, I blame all of you. You all have our blood on your own hands, because I said if you let Sarah Lane buy this movie for $30, it is over. It is all over. And I remember
it's still only the number $5 per dollar spent.
Yes, but it's
for now.
5 days into it.
I know, it's 5 days in, $187 million, setting records and all that stuff. Sarah's got $629 million. Number 2 is Justin with $472 million. Now the thing is, I'm way back. I'm $175 million. I'm so far back, but I haven't got to my schedule yet. I've only had X-Men First Class and Larry Crown, which was a throwaway. So yeah. I'm counting. I'm not going to catch Sarah at this point. We might as well just give her the win. But I am counting on Cowboys and Aliens and the Smurfs in 3D to bolster me up. And everybody keeps laughing when I talk about Smurfs in 3D. It is going to do better than you people think. And I got it for $9.
Yeah, it's a bargain.
You keep downplaying your Rise of the Apes. I think that's your biggest ace in the hole. Rise of the Apes just keeps looking better and better to me every time I see a trailer.
Yeah, well, that's my last chance if the other two don't work. So, go Apes.
Well, I'll tell you this much: the game's over for number one. I mean, clearly Sarah's gonna just run away with it. She could lap us all and hit $1 billion.
She still has the changeup. But otherwise, she's done. Justin is the closest to being able to even come close to her. Justin and Cargill.
Yeah,
Justin has no more movies, so he's out.
Right.
Cargill has Conan the Barbarian and Final Destination 5.
I think he's got.
He could have a surprise hit on his hands and maybe get close.
But still, he has Transformers, and Transformers still continues to do really well.
That's true.
So
Transformers
that's
is
continue to be
yeah, it's
strong
at $305 million though. It's not going to get that many more. I mean,
my prediction is that Cargill's got maybe $130 million left in him. And he's going to wrap up around $550 million. Jason still has. Okay, so you're still making money with Cars 2.
Yeah, although it's slowed down incredibly.
Do you find yourself? Do you get up in the morning and go to Box Office Mojo and start checking the numbers?
No, I look on here, and in the beginning it was a huge jump, and then it's just been a very quick downslide from there with Cars. I mean, it's undeniably it had bad press and bad reviews, and I think that's definitely affected it.
Well, there is right now the race for number 1 is over, but now it's an interesting, we've got essentially a 5-way race for number 2. Justin's in number 2 right now, but everybody's got
But he's done. So he's going to get passed for sure.
He's probably not going to hold on to it. But for me, my only movie left is Captain America. I don't think Zookeeper's making near the money I'd hope. Although my daughter keeps begging me to take her to it, so maybe that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But pretty much if Captain America can do upwards 180 million, maybe 200 million, then I think I've got an excellent shot at stealing number 2.
I did see Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows 2 and loved it. In fact, Eileen said unequivocally, and I agree with her, unequivocally, best movie of the series. Of all of the movies, all 8 movies that they put out.
Wow. I'm sorry, I'm making a side bet. So I'm getting smack talk in the chat room. Chimera is just like 4-way tie, Brian. You're out. And I'm like, I'll bet you 20 pesos that I take number 2. I think I'm very confident that I have a strong probability of hitting number 2.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Squarespace.com. Brian, for instance, if you wanted to make a campaign site to tell people to go to the movies that you have so that you could get number 2. Although
SaveBrian.squarespace.com.
You could make it right now, and you wouldn't have to know any CSS. Although if you knew some, you could tweak it. But you could make it beautiful, and you can make it brilliant right away. Easy to use UI, optimized for beginners and experts. Hundreds of design templates, so it's not going to look like everybody else's site. It's not going to be like, oh, look at that WordPress template. No. It's not like that. You got hundreds of design templates, and then it's easy to change them so that they look good to you. So you might as well try it out. I mean, is there any risk to people trying it out, Brian?
No, and as a matter of fact, they love it when you go on there and make fake websites. And just in the back of your mind, just know that you could go to Squarespace and you don't have to give a credit card or nothing. Within 20 seconds, you can have your website instantly live and you can register hilarious names or whatever. But they love you doing that because you get familiar with the tools. And then down the road, when you have a serious project, they know that you're going to sign up with them, and we want you to use offer code FRAMERATE7 because, it's the month of July right now. And that not only will you get a big fat discount, what is the discount that you get with that code?
Well, if you sign up with the FrameRate7 code and you decide to purchase the service, you will get I just scrolled on me, stupid computer. You will get 10% off for 6 months.
Right. 6 months, half a year of 10% off. So not only are you going to save yourself some coin, but most importantly, they pay attention to which shows are sending them the traffic. And we, of course, would love it if you would support us here at FrameRate by heading over to our friends at Squarespace.
There's a lot of people out there who say, I understand what you're saying, Brian and Tom. I'm going to go try this out. I think it's a great idea. There's others of you out there. There's others of you out there that are going, don't tell me what to do. And to you, I say, don't you dare go to squarespace.com and make a Save Brian site right now. Don't do it.
Their head just exploded.
And if you do decide to keep it, don't you dare use the code FrameRate7. All right? I hope we have that clear now. Thanks to Squarespace for their support of FrameRate. Let's move on to Tube Tops. Tube Tops.
Tube Tops.
Gonna put one on. QuickTime 7 player quit unexpectedly.
Wow, that was
that's a big letdown.
It's delightful that it's showing Breaking Bad on there behind it. Boy, that segment broke bad right there.
It really did.
There we go.
Tube Tops. So we got some new castings for Game of Thrones, Brian. Are you familiar with the characters of Stannis and Melisandre?
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job of talking about certain characters and never showing them to you, because that's one of the overwhelming things about the books is that you have so much going on with so many intrigues that I think it's in the book it hits you all at once, and it's only through repetition over and over and over again you finally piece who's related to who in what way. But on TV, you're working with the visual memory, so I think it's a little more important that you not overwhelm people. And so as a result, they kept the cast rather small. You hear about Stannis, but you never see him. Same, or I guess you haven't even heard of Melisandre. But
Stannis is Robert Baratheon's brother. And
Yes.
so if you follow the plot of A Game of Thrones and you know the controversy over Joffrey's succession to the throne, Stannis is a pretender to the throne. And he'll be played by Stephen Delan, who is a British actor. Probably you might know him as playing Thomas Jefferson in the HBO miniseries John Adams. He's also been in King Arthur, The Hours, and the Mel Gibson version of Hamlet. And frankly, I look at him and I think, yeah, that is kind of what I think Stannis looks like, with a little makeup, maybe a little longer hair. That's it for me. They continue the trend right on.
He also looks like I could kind of see a little bit of the same guy of Renly in there as well, because remember Renly's the second youngest, right?
Yeah, and he's a little I don't want to say foppish, but he's not as manly as Stannis.
Yes, no, that is very, very true. But Stannis is very much a man's man,
yes,
and an unlikable
He's
man's
hairy.
man in the book as well. Now, what about Melisandre? What do you think of that?
Carice van Houten is a Dutch actress. She has won 3 Golden Calf Awards, and probably the most Melisandre-like role she's ever had was appearing in Black Death, along with Sean Bean and Eamon Elliott as well. She also was in Repo Men and Valkyrie, and they've got a picture of her from Black Death up on the Wart Zone. If you dye her hair red, she's it for me. She's a blonde, so you got to make her red hair. Obviously, she's going to play the Red Priestess, but
yeah,
I think she's dead on as well.
Yeah, boy, I tell you what, I don't think there's but maybe 3 actors who have their natural hair color in all of that show, because so much of
that's not a big deal.
No. I just think it's funny because it's like sometimes they really commit to it and they try to make him look like a natural blonde, but other times, like with Tyrion, they're like, I don't know, just give him a few highlights. That's kind of blonde. Sure, why not?
Have you been watching anything besides Adventure Time?
No. It's so bad. First of all, let me explain something. I want to continue the Fringe experiment, but the episodes of the first season are not available anymore. They were up. I was watching them on Hulu. When you found them, it sent you over to the WB, and they had the whole first season.
The WB?
But well, yeah, the WB.
That's not even a network anymore.
It's thewb.com is where the Fringe episodes were hosted.
Okay.
And so now when you go there, now they've got I guess they had a rotating window, and for a while they were showing the first episodes of the first season. Now they're on to episode 14 on of the first season.
Just skip ahead.
Well, I mean, but I didn't want to because we talked about this. I liked the first one enough. I wanted to go on to the second one.
You can buy them on iTunes.
Okay. Okay, good. I didn't know that. So that'll be my recourse to continue the experiment.
How far did you get?
I mean, I watched that first one, and then the second time we went on vacation, and then got caught up in other stuff.
Episode.
And then, in this case, I got frustrated because I went to the same.
I'm 4 episodes from the end of season 3 of Breaking Bad, by the way.
You have how many more?
3 more.
So you did not watch the premiere of Breaking Bad?
No, we recorded it on the DVR though, because we know Comic-Con's going to get in the way. But if not this weekend, the next weekend, we will be caught up. We will watch all of the rest of this season and watch the 2 episodes or 3 or whatever it is by that time.
Okay, well, tell me what you think of Breaking Bad in general at this point. Has it got? Obviously, it got its hooks into you because you spent a whole day watching it.
Oh yeah, no, we watch it every night. It's like we watch whatever we happen to have recorded that day, and then we watch an episode of Breaking Bad, and then we're like, should we stay up later and watch more Breaking Bad? Yes,
I know that well.
Yeah,
Eileen got into it as well.
Same thing.
Yeah, she did, and it is an entirely different show for me now, most of the way through season 3 than it was at the beginning.
Yes.
And still, and it's like boiling a frog. I don't know how I got there because it's so seamless to get from one point to the other. You don't think, oh, now they're changing his character. Like, it just happens incrementally. And at the beginning, it was kind of a dark comedy, and there's still elements of that, but it has become like a serious, almost Wire-like drug drama now.
Yes, and I don't know that I go so far as to compare it to The Wire, insofar as The Wire is extraordinarily realistic. Almost.
The Wire is about how society works. Breaking Bad is not how society works. Breaking Bad is how the characters work.
Correct. How great, by the way, are you enjoying Bob Odenkirk's character in that?
He's great.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's all good, man. And Badger, and of course, Pinkman's friends.
I love Badger's actually hilarious.
Sunday night, the premiere happens, right? Bonnie and I are all excited. We're hosting Brett Rounceville, the Amtrekker, over at our house because he had a Go game here in town. And so I was like, look, man, I want to hang out, but it's freaking premiere. Have you ever seen Breaking Bad? He's like, no. I was like, well, do you care if you have it ruined? Because we're going to watch this, and you'll have no context for anything. Do you want us to explain? He's like, you know what? Don't explain anything. Just let me watch it. And watching the premiere to us was a very big, we knew the context and the gravity of everything that we just saw happen. So we were very wrapped up in it. And it was very satisfying for us. But I asked, from Brett's perspective, I was like, well, what was it like for you? He's like, I don't know, it was all right. But, I understand that's hard to do when you come in the middle of a story. So as a result of that, I was like, well, let me, let's go. I'll rewatch the first episode of Breaking Bad with you. That's how much I like it. So we watched it with that, and then we watched the second one, and then we watched the third one, and then it was 3 in the morning.
Oh no!
And it's like I am rewatching. I'm diving head first back into Breaking Bad territory. Watched 4 of those episodes, and then the very last thing we watched before we went to bed was I was like, "Have you seen Adventure Time?"
No.
Just dove.
You're a pusher.
Adventure Time and regular show, which is so unbelievably good. Like I play it, and what's funny is my mom walked by. My parents are staying with us while they remodel their house, and so I didn't know that my mom had even seen the show. She walked in and she saw us watching Adventure Time. She's like, "Oh yeah, no, this is a good show." And so it's so obviously for adults, and there's so many moments that it's like I'm like, wow, they're definitely saying that on a kid's show. But I guess kids aren't going to get it, and I think it was always that kind of way with cartoons when they were, doing winks to the
Well,
adults.
Looney Tunes, seem to pave that way. I don't know if there were other cartoons that I'm just not aware of that did it before Looney Tunes. Maybe the Disney cartoons in the 30s did that too. But yeah, I always think of Looney Tunes as having the winks to things that you don't get. They're like little time bombs in your brain, and when you get older, you suddenly realize, oh, that's what that line Bugs Bunny says means. I never, yeah, exactly.
You're like, oh, that's kind of dirty.
Yeah.
My favorite part also is that the Jake the dog is played by the same actor who does Bender, I assume. I mean, the voice is clearly Bender from Future.
Bending Robot Rodriguez?
Yes, exactly. And I think that's it on everything else I'm watching. Oh, and actually we'll talk about this other thing in Interferon because I found it on the web.
Okay.
I was shocked by it.
I mentioned that we were catching up on Breaking Bad. I was also very excited to watch the season premiere of Haven and was not disappointed. I love that show. I think it's one of the most underrated shows on television. Torchwood got better for me in the second episode, so I'm not as down on that as I was originally. I'm still watching Eureka, Warehouse 13, True Blood, and Falling Skies. I'm really enjoying. I'm starting to get in the groove on that show on TNT. It's the Alien Invasion show, if you haven't seen it. So, those are my picks, my recommendations right now.
Awesome.
Let's move on to Interferon. Now, you've picked all our Interferon videos today, so you need to set them up for me because I haven't had a chance to watch these.
Some of these came in from contributions to people who write us at framerateshow@gmail.com. Some of them are just chatter that I'm seeing on Twitter, but we get a lot of letters from people in Canada complaining that Netflix isn't available. They complain about the metered bandwidth. They complain a lot, which is very un-Canadian of them. But now, man, do they ever have good reason to complain about this. There's a I don't know if it's an op-ed or what, but at eves.ca, it says the audacity of Shaw, how Canada's internet just got worse. And it talks about Shaw Communications, a Canadian telecommunications company.
Rogers and Shaw are the two main cable companies in Canada, and they kind of split up the country between them.
Okay.
Roughly speaking.
Like the Crips and the Bloods is what you're saying.
Yeah, if we only had Comcast and Time Warner in the United States and they sort of roughly divided the country in half, it'd be like that.
Okay. Well, they announced that they've got a new service called Movie Club, which is a new service that'll compete with Netflix. And that sounds great because a lot of people are unhappy with their Netflix service. And now keep in mind, most Canadians are accustomed to like a 2 gigabyte bandwidth.
Well, no, but they have usage-based billing as a big controversy in Canada right now, and
Right.
a lot of companies are putting in bandwidth caps, including Shaw.
Well, one of the features of Movie Club that might be an advantage, perhaps an unfair advantage over Netflix, is that, quote, subscribers to Movie Club who initially can watch on their TV or computer with phones and tablets planned to come online later can view content without it counting against their data plan, which means Shaw internet service providers own service. You can watch all the movies you can eat, and none of it counts towards your metering. Whereas if you use Netflix, well, that all gets counted on your metering. So this is a very real life showdown of what many people because obviously the net neutrality battle has been raging for years, months and years now. But this is a case where it's actually happening. Their worst case scenario, the step in the wrong direction, is actually happening in Canada right now. And obviously the guy who writes this article has some words of what he thinks about that. But I think it's interesting that the battle about net neutrality is not just hypothetical in Canada right now. It's actually being fought, and this looks like a bum deal to me.
So is this we covered this on Tech News Today, and it is a bum deal. Is there a video that was created about this, or we're just talking about the story in general?
Oh, I was just talking about the story, and it popped in.
I was hoping somebody had created some kind of protest video about this, but yeah, it's the first clear, blatant net neutrality violation where you're like, yeah, we're going to prefer our own service on our own pipes to you, and dissuade you from using the competition. We're going to abuse our monopoly power.
So, take off, eh?
Yeah, eh. Actually, by the way, Shaw kind of pedaled back after this announcement and said, "Oh no, it will count against your cap." They did clarify later, even though that's not what they said originally.
That's called a retraction. You don't clarify.
Well, no, they say we never said that. We never said that. We need to clarify that this does indeed count against your cap.
Okay. Oh, you know what? And now that I look at it, it says this is because, as the article points out, blah 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 blah. And so maybe the article was mistaken about it, but regardless,
I think they let people think that because it was true. And then as soon as all the blowback started to hit them, they said, oh, wait a minute. We're not going to go to court over this. Of course it counts against your bandwidth cap. We just mean that it doesn't count against your cable bill. Or something. I don't know. They said something crazy like that.
No, I totally, sure. Why not? I also found somebody sent in to framerateshow@gmail.com, and I apologize. I forget which person it was. We got it from a few different people. But in honor of the last Harry Potter film, here is 2 kids beatboxing and singing all of the Harry Potter spoilers in 99 seconds, except for the last movie. So, spoiler alert, magenta here.
Parents were killed by Voldemort, who gave him a lightning scar. Yo, Harry, you a wizard. Harry goes to Hogwarts, he meets Ron and Hermione. McGonagall requires he play for Gryffindor. Draco is his daddy's boy, Quirrell becomes unemployed. The Sorcerer's Stone is destroyed by Dumbledore. Ron breaks his wand, now Jenny's gone, and Harry's in mortal danger. Tom Riddle hides his snake inside his ginormous secret chamber. Harry blows up and Marge. The Dementors come and take charge. Lupin is a wolf, the rat's a man, and now the prisoner is at large. They use time travel so they can save the prisoner of Azkaban, who just so happens to be Harry's godfather. I don't really get it either. Harry gets put in the Triwizard Tournament with dragons and mermaids, oh no, and we're calling Get Slade. He's back. Harry, it's getting scary. Voldemort's back. You're a revolutionary, Harry. Dumbledore. Why is he ignoring your constant attempts to contact him? He is forced to leave the school. Umbridge arrives, Draco's a fool. Kids break into the Ministry. Sirius Black is dead as can be. Oh, split your soul. 7 parts of a whole. They're Horcruxes. It's Dumbledore's end. There once was a boy
Can I admit something?
Harry who constantly
I kind of hate this.
Really? You know what? I'm actually not one who's nutty for the Harry Potter craze or whatever. But I liked the second 30 seconds of it. But regardless,
I thought it was very cleverly written and executed. But I don't know. Maybe just that kind of acapella thing is not my thing.
It's a little uncomfortable.
It's too Glee.
Kind of squirmy when you watch it.
Wait, you like Glee?
Nah, I'm okay with Glee. I don't watch every episode though.
I totally stopped watching Glee once it stopped being hateful.
Yeah, I never watched it, and I watched an episode here and there.
You never watched it, but you watched episodes.
I never watched it the first season, at all, and then I watched like an episode here and there in the reruns, and so this last season I watched like 3 episodes.
Yeah, I gave up after the first season. But hey, if you want something that you might like, do you remember a little show from Matt Parker and Trey Parker, Matt Stone in
Basketball? Oh no,
not the guys who did Basketball, but on Comedy Central called That's My Bush. Did you ever see that?
No, yes, actually, yeah.
I loved that show. It was brilliant, and the jokes were funny, and it was formulaic to a fault. It was meant to be a parody of formulaic sitcom comedies. And in fact, they actually bought a book, How to Write Sitcom Comedies. And they're like, take 2 characters who don't get along and stick them in an elevator together. So they have to work out their differences. And then they would write that exact episode. It was very, very brilliant. And of course, once 9/11 happened, making fun of the president was not very popular to do. And I thought it was brilliant at its time. But what I did not realize is that a full decade beforehand, and by the way, this comes to me from Patrick Delahanty in the chat room. He sent that over to me with big fat WTF. Do you realize that British television had a sitcom in the 1990s? They shot 6 episodes. They only showed 1 episode of it. Guess who the star of the sitcom is?
John Le Mesurier?
The main character.
I'm just looking at the screenshot in the preview. I've read the description, so if I guess, I'll just be right.
Well, here's your little hint. It's called Heil Honey, I'm Home. And I don't know if you just want to show like a random jump ahead to like 5 minutes in or whatever. It was horrific and offensive to people, but it's a sitcom with Eva Braun and Adolf Hitler. And I don't know how this popped up on the internet. We'll see how long it takes till somebody yanks it off. But nobody has ever seen 5 of the 6 episodes, because when the first episode came out, it obviously generated a lot of controversy, as you can imagine. But what's interesting to me is that if you listen to it, this is a British-made TV show shown for the British, but they're very clearly affecting American accents. They're very clearly riffing on the honeymooners type aesthetic. Like, listen to what they're talking about real quick.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
Okay, Ava, you were right. I was wrong. I'll show him around the town. We'll have a few beers. He'll forget about Czechoslovakia. He'll think, hey, this Adolf Hitler is a regular guy. Come on, babe. Just relax. Here comes the tickle monster.
Wow.
Right? I mean, that's
it really is uncomfortable yet hilarious.
I know, right? I give it maybe 6 months until somebody realizes that there's a gold mine if they can find those lost episodes and release it, and they can make a ton of money on this. But what a bizarre slice of history. This is, I mean, think about it. It was controversial for Matt and Trey to do That's My Bush at the time.
Yeah.
But this is a decade before then. They were way ahead of him.
Serum in the chat room pretty much nails it. You want to laugh, but it's Hitler. And you're just like, man, he killed people. That's not funny.
Well, and what's funny is it's not like a reimagining of it. The idea, like, this is 1938, and he's got Neville Chamberlain to come over to do, which is, these are all have historical analogs,
right,
but they're just representing it as a dinner between heads of...
That's a track you can't go too much farther down. Literally.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and before we move on to feedback, do we have another sponsor?
No, I mean, sure, we could. Netflix.com/twit. Try it out. 30 days free. Got it?
There you go.
Yeah.
Now let's talk some feedback.
Pass it around.
Yeah.
And I wanted to clarify on the Shaw thing. I remembered somebody jogged my memory in the chat room. Shaw said we meant it wouldn't count against your data cap when you watched the videos on your cable box because their service allows you to watch your movies and TV shows not only online on your computers and your smartphones but also on your television through the cable box. And they're saying when you watch these movies and TV shows on your cable box, it doesn't count against your data cap because it's coming through the cable system and not over the internet. That's what they clarified.
Well, that's legitimate, but again, it's like that's a bundling that I don't need to. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this shakes out.
Let's say I don't know. Time for feedback.
Now it's time for feedback with Brian and Tom on Frame Rate. Oh yeah.
Jimmy writes, enjoy the show. Please fix the intro for feedback. I want to see you go back to the problem, Tom, where Tom only has his head exposed or just his or he's upside down, or maybe appears looking over Brian's shoulder, maybe not appear at all. Just mess things up like it used to be. Make it broken. Seeing the same old graphic is not as fun.
Okay. We could. That's kind of funny. We could do that. But you know what needs to be done before that, Jimmy? And I think this is a problem that a lot of frame rate users have forgotten about, and I want to call attention to it. The picture of me in the intro is beardless.
That's why he's ashamed of himself.
And it shows me sitting in the CNET studio.
It's not okay.
So if I'm not saying anybody has to go do this, but if someone out there were like, "Hey, I want to do a cool video for the show," I love the frame rate intro. I love the music. I love almost everything about it. But update our pictures. Brian probably has some better pictures too.
This is as good as I get.
Okay, never mind. But
Kuhan in the chat room is asking, "Do I have to break it again, Raygun01?"
Hey, I loved the first paragraph of this. And normally, when we ask you if you want us to read your letter on the air, please keep it short. Most of them were so very, very long. And we read them all. We do read them all at framerateshow@gmail.com. So try to keep them bite-sized for us, or at least have paragraphs that we could cut out. But this one, while long, really made me smile. This is, I believe, in regards to, well, here we go. This is from Richard F. Last weekend, we took our 7-year-old son to the local drive-in in Valparaiso, Indiana, to see Zookeeper. I had to support it. I have it in the NSFW Summer Movie Draft, and Cars 2. Aside from the long lines and the horribly outdated concession stand, the need for bug spray, the poor, borderline irresponsible choice of intermission trailers, in other words, Apollo 18 before the G-rated Cars 2, the billowing plumes of cannabis smoke coming from the car next to us.
Hey, free smoke.
There were two very noticeable differences between now and my halcyon days of driving experiences from my youth. SUVs and fold-up camping chairs. Everyone seems to feel the need now to tailgate at the drive-in instead of everyone huddled around inside their sedans and compact cars of the past. Everyone has the hatch of their 9-passenger SUV up with a near camp setup. Near camp setups filling out the back. The drive-in provides twine for people to tie their hatches down to roof level to keep the sight lines clear, but clearly nobody used it. The only reason I can ever see for putting ourselves through this again would be for Super 8. I cannot think of a better sitting to see this movie again, and I'd even put up the rest of that crap to do so. However, as far as the movie Super goes, you both must see this movie immediately. My recommendation would be for the two of you to agree when you're going to watch it, because I'm nearly certain that you will want to discuss it with each other. It's the first movie in a long while that I was still thinking about several days later and desperately wanting to find any other person who had seen it to discuss it. Love the show, Richard F. I think that's a good plan, actually. We should both hit up Super this week sometime.
I won't be able to see it this week because I'm covering Comic-Con. So I won't
it's
be
a terrible
seeing,
idea. What I was saying is
anything,
like,
but
thank you,
I will definitely want to do it next week if we can.
Okay, we'll do that then.
And Netflix.com/twit.
Right on.
So, having seen Harry Potter twice this weekend, writes Jake from Cincinnati, I now understand why people would want to have first-run movies at home. It's because it's an environment they can control. Both times I saw the movie, there were kids in the theater that would not shut up and seats that refused to stop squeaking. Neither are an issue in high-paced action scenes, but in movies with very quiet scenes, it immediately takes you right out of the moment. At least at home, I can control the environment and eliminate those problems, even if that means losing seeing the movie on a giant screen. Also, in regards to all the streaming video being talked about, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, where my high-speed internet is limited. In my neighborhood, I have two choices: my local ISP, Cincinnati Bell, or Time Warner. With Time Warner, the performance is inconsistent and unreliable. With Cincinnati Bell, at best, I get 1.3 megabits per second. Yes, that's the best package available in my neighborhood. The fiber network's taking too long to roll out. So with even a single heavy computer user in my home, the speeds aren't enough to keep up with streaming. Add in my father, who's also a heavy computer user. We bring our data connection to its knees. I can't continue.
You're getting choked up over it?
Yeah, I got a dry
killing
spot.
you. It's killing you, isn't it?
Anyway, so he says, I've lost my train of thought, but I think my point to all this is that in much of the country, reliably streaming is not practical. Trust me, I'd be the first to jump if it were, but much of the infrastructure is so terrible it makes it difficult. For now, I'll drop the streaming portion of my Netflix account and continue to get Blu-rays in the mail.
Yeah, that's I put that one in there mainly because for all of our talk, you know, it's obvious to us that, oh, let's move forward. It's time for the future. Let's ditch physical media. But there are people who get a little bit frustrated when they hear us talk this way because they don't have that choice. And to be honest, I get frustrated when I see people who have the FiOS with their 20 upstream, 20 downstream. And, let's just hope that bandwidth gets faster.
Now, he's saying, I understand what he's saying. Cincinnati Bell is his DSL provider, and he only gets 1.3 megabits per second because of the distance he is from the colo, which is actually that's not that bad. 1.5 is usually the max anyway, unless they're doing some super DSL or something. But he says Time Warner performance is inconsistent and unreliable. Now, I don't think that is the normal experience of people. People complain about cable ISPs, and there are reasons to complain about them, but consistency and reliability isn't always a problem. You have Time Warner, you're able to stream Netflix. Right, Brian?
Right. Well, oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's, I would say unreliability, especially, I'm kind of surprised to hear about that from a large ISP. You know, I hear about that with some of these that service people out in the boondocks. But for someone who is a relatively big guy who has the muscle in order to fix it and actually give you the service that they promise, I'm kind of surprised that
so it sounds like he might have a bad loop in his neighborhood or something like that. I don't know. Maybe Jake sounds like he's exasperated. Maybe he's gone round and round with Time Warner already trying to get him.
Oh, and I've been there too, man. It's like at some point you just lose.
Yeah, exactly.
You're done.
But yeah, I don't know if his experience is representative of most people. I think most people just aren't willing to pay the extra amount of money because it's considerably more expensive to get the high speed. But usually they have an option. It's usually the cable company.
Can I just say real quick that freaking chat room is insane and they drive me nuts. I mentioned FiOS getting 20 upstream, 20 downstream, and within seconds somebody tweeted me this photo of their bandwidth on there. 153 down, 60 up. That's, well, allow me to be the first to speak on behalf of the rest of America when we say, screw you, sir.
Yeah, so you should write Jake and make him feel better. Dave from Waco, Texas says, I love the show, and being a Texan, I tend to agree with Brian on most everything. That's just on principle because you're in Texas.
That's an agreement we all have. It's part of the being a Texas citizen. You're like, do you agree to back up your homes?
If I still lived in Austin, Brian would have to agree with me on everything.
That's true.
Dave continues, though. He says, however, I think you are missing the important part of the equation on the Netflix debacle. Although Brian did touch on it, the online selection is way too sparse to make it an only choice. Of the last 10 movies/series, I tried to look up 4 weren't available. The TV series Petrocelli, 10-Speed and Brown Shoe, Mesmer, and 3 in the Attic. And 4
that was my favorite part when it was just obvious that those were titles that should be there, but they're not. What's up with that?
10-Speed and Brown Shoe only came out on DVD 2 years ago, by the way. 4 were only available on disc. The fact that movies are constantly rotated in and out of availability tells me that Netflix is serious about being the online tells me that if Netflix is serious about being the online video equivalent of Amazon's success for all things books, they will need to keep both options tied together for less than the new price. However, if they are really just in it for the bucks, then this new plan will probably work for them. No, the reason they have to rotate things in and out is licensing, plain and simple. If they actually have the money to pay for this stuff, if they were allowed to, but it's not just about money. It's about windowing. It's about this old-fashioned system. We've talked about it on Frame Rate, but to sum it up really quickly, the system was built for people to take a TV show, and once it's in syndication, or let's take a movie once it's out of the theater, to give it to hotels for on demand, and then give it to planes, and then you give it to the pay movie channels, and then you give it to broadcast TV, and then it goes into syndicated TV, and then it goes back to the movie channels, and so it's set up to pull it in and out of all of these different places. And so Netflix gets caught up in that, where it's like, well, you can give it to you for 3 months during the syndicated window, but then it's got to go back and go to this other place. And that's why they don't get to just have something forever. The system has to change and adapt to the new realities.
Yeah, and man, did we ever get, out of all the comments and emails that we've got, I don't think we've seen as many people chiming in as they have on whether or not the Netflix price hike is a big deal or not. The one other email that we were going to, we're out of time here, but he basically says, we'll be paying $5 more per month to get the same plan. We looked over the alternatives, and within about 5 minutes of talking it over, decided it's still a better deal than anything else out there. And part of the reason he's able to afford that is because he's already cut the cord a long time ago and isn't doing cable. That's from Joe in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, it's all depends on what you want. If you want everything, Netflix isn't going to have that, and they're not going to have that for a while. But if you want to have an interesting and ever-changing selection, that does work for some people. So they can try it out for free if they want.
Absolutely.
That's it for this episode of Frame Rate. Thank you, Brian Brushwood.
Hey man, had a great time as always. Now get the hell out of here, buddy.
All right, I gotta go. See you later. Bye. Hulu is Hobo Cinnamon Toast.
The moment I spoke those words, I knew that would be the title.